Let me start expressing my deep gratitude to be here, and this is thank you to Max, and well, of course, to Greg and all the team behind Lake Chapala Society. And it's my honor to be here and share what I have been doing for the last 10 years. Is better now?
No. It's professional. Yeah, a little further away and then with the volume up.
Maybe turn the volume up.
Yeah.
It's better now?
No.
Testing.
She's got no.
Testing.
This one if you want.
Yeah, yours works well.
Let's switch just in case. Just in case.
That's what I just said.
Testing now?
Yes.
Yeah. At the back?
It's better now?
Yes.
So, as Philip said, I was a human rights lawyer during 15 years. And visiting prisons was very common, very usual for my work. But every time I went into a prison and came back, or leave the prison, I was always wondering why, and I was leaving to my yoga class or having my life outside, I was always wondering why yoga practice could not be available or accessible for people in prison. Why it was exclusive practice for certain people. Even though it could be a very easy, cheap, accessible practice if they only have one yoga mat space over there. We'll just use it like this or something. It's better now.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. I will just get used to it. So, yeah, then in 2015, I was living in Brussels, working on human rights, but then I decided to quit my job and went to India and get my, well, not only in India, but in Mexico and Brussels, get some yoga certificates as yoga teacher. And when I came back to Mexico, I decided to bring the yoga to prisons, but I realized that it was different effects. The effects were different when I was teaching inside and outside. Because inside, it's not that people were not going to the class or get hurt or anything like clearly not working, but my perception, my intuition said like I don't connect with them same as outside. And the guys were coming like very anxious, but also leaving the session very anxious, like same. And I was like, why is not this, doesn't make an effect. So that's when I searched for people who were doing this work in prisons, and I find a prison yoga project in San Francisco and learn there, and then invite or have the need to open also like a Mexican chapter, because I saw the results after one yoga class with the same group in the same prison, and followed the class by the book, with the book that I got in San Francisco. Like it's a manual, yoga manual, prepared for people in jail. So I saw like the 3 or 4 guys that I have seen in the first row, because it was very crowded class. They were at the end of the class very relaxed or even sleeping. And I was like, wow, this works. That like hooks me. Like this, I need to learn more. And that's when I got certified also on trauma-sensitive yoga in the Trauma Center in Boston. So since then, we have been doing this work, but also because my human rights background, I'm always interested to learn more about the criminal system. And just to give you like some data on the big picture, today, well, this is information from 2024-25. Prison population now all over the world is 11.5 million people. And 1 of 3 in this population are in pre-trial detention. We don't know if they are guilty or not. Incarceration of women is still to increase every year because the drugs policy and all how they are many times related emotionally, or they have family who is involved with drugs cartels, etc. But this is not only in Mexico, but all about the world. And also, women's imprisonment rates increasing faster than men. It's not the same incarceration for men, but for women. This also impacts on children. At least 23 million children have been impacted by imprisonment in different ways, because they might be imprisoned in the criminal justice system, or because they have some parent in prison, or even because they live with their mothers in prison. In Mexico, in the federal system, kids can be until 3 years old with their mom. At the state level, that it's very much more flexible. They could be at 7, 8. But anyway, trauma that this occurs, even if the kid lives in a prison environment, which is very violent, or even when they are separated from their mother, that's also very deep trauma. Or even though if they live until 7, 8 years, all kids walking among all adults, it's also very vulnerable situations. But also, well, there is not only the children, but also older persons are incarcerated, even though in Mexico the law says until or plus 70 you can do it, your prison at home, but that doesn't apply for everyone, only for politicians. So people can be there for many years, and also because, although in Mexico we don't have like a cadena perpetua, like long life sentences, we do have, I don't know, 200 years of sentence, no? Of in prison. So it is in reality what we have here in Mexico. And also in Mexico we also have at state level overcrowding population, overcrowding crisis at state level prison. At federal level is not that the case. It's like a different world, but they do a lot of isolation. No? So they live alone in their cells or with other person in the same cell 23 hours per day for months or even years. And all these systems are very selective, also here in Mexico. Not everyone goes in jail. If it depends on systemic racism, discrimination, social status, if people can have the money to pay a private lawyer or the brave to get out of prison. It is still like, if you watch the population in prison, there are poor people, also indigenous people, or racialized people in prison. I don't know if you have heard about the Adverse Childhood Experience study that was done in Seattle in the 90s. It is a study that started to search or learn how early childhood experience will impact you in your adulthood, not only on your physical health, but also in your mental health. And it's a questionnaire. If you Google, it's like 10 questions. If you have ever suffered emotional, physical violence, or if neglect, or even abandoned, or if one in your family has a mental illness, or were in prison, or well, 10 questions. And they have found that if people answer 4 or more, this will affect their somehow illness, physical illness in their adulthood, or mental illness, or they will be more propense to go into addictions or into criminal behaviors. So there was a study from CDC in the US, this institutional institutional office, that say that 64% of the US population has at least one ACE, one adverse childhood experience. But population in prison has 98% of at least one adverse childhood experience. And they also find out that at least 78 people in prison in the America also have more than 4 ACEs in their lifehood. This is before 18, before 18 years old. This is like during your childhood or teenager or youth. But this is just the violence before getting into prison. In Mexico, at least, the detention is normally accompanied by violence, torture, etc. And life inside prison is also guided by violence. Everyone wants to be the bad guy, so they get respected. And it's very, like, if we think about the criminal system, what we are doing with people, like people who has committed a crime, who has committed violence, they will be object of more violence. Allow it, legally, violence. We want the people who are outside committing crimes stop doing that, but we'll put it in places where violence and regular crimes, not even regular, but serious crimes, are allowed to happen inside. We put people in jail because they have broken the law, but we take them to places where the law doesn't apply. We have, protocols, manuals, etc., but no one follows that in prison. There is like a subculture that, you need to learn how to move there, because whatever is in the paper will not apply. So it's honestly very crazy punishment system. It's a retributive system. I will talk more about that. So in this kind of environment, lack of safety, predictability, control is permanent, is constant. The nervous system inside gets prepared to fight all the time. This is our normal response to threat, but not for 24/7. This is not even chronic stress that we normally do at work or in our stressed lives. But in prison, it's more than just chronic stress. It is trauma. And joined with all the past violence, or all the past violence they have suffered before going to prison, it increases the possibilities to develop complex trauma. So what we do in a prison yoga project, we provide trauma-informed yoga practices. We have learned that I don't know if you have practiced yoga or if you practice yoga, but we learned that yoga will help us to regulate our nervous system, like to discharge all the extra stress, cortisol that our body generates. And if that happens, if we are regulated, our mind thinks clearly. Our heart feels more open. We are not protecting, but we are like, well, some other studies say that we are like in our our social connection mode, that this is our regular standard, well, regular mode for human beings. We need that, like be in contact with other human beings. Put people in jail, it's contrary to that nature. Like isolation, it's very harmful punishment for the human being. You can be a toddler or a kid, or you can be like isolation makes the wounds even deeper. Community help us to co-regulate. So that's also what yoga practices help in prison. Not only to self-regulate, but also feel part of a community. Have this feeling of belonging that we all need. So since 2000, well, the organization started, as I mentioned, in the US, in San Francisco, in the prison of San Quentin. But we started here in Mexico in 2017. We started with the yoga practice, but when I saw the need of also include restorative circles in prisons, we proposed it also to the authorities, and because we have gained their trust, because we are there every week, every single week, in 6 of the 14 federal prisons, some in online programs, some in person, but they really trust us. So after 1 year of being in the, and they have seen also the results of the people who practice yoga. They say like they don't fight anymore. Like they ask for less medication. They don't, their behavior start to change. So that's why they say like, please keep coming. They don't pay us, unfortunately. But we started with a group of volunteers, and then, well, the organization started to formalize, etc. But we offer them yoga practices and visits. Because what the problem we want to address in this environment, as you can imagine, there is a lot of unresolved trauma inside, and a lot of disconnection with their bodies, a lot of dissociation. Suicides are very common. The Penal Reform International, let me see the name. It's an organization who does studies, global studies. The numbers that I'm showing come from there. It's Penal Reform International. They say that at least 1 from 10 murders or people dying in prison were suicides. In Mexico, it's also very common, and mainly with women. They also say that it's women who commit suicide more than men. In the federal women's facility, we only have 1 federal women's facility, and the government decided 10 years ago to create a new impressive facility. Impressive not because it's beauty, but because it's magnitude, and all blocks and bars, like all cement and bars, and like blocks. And last 2024 and last year, 2025, there was a crisis with women committing suicide. Like in 6 months, they reported 14 suicides. Like it is not, that doesn't happen like even in the most crowded population, like having, or maybe yes, I don't know, but it is not in the crowded prisons. We don't have that amount of suicide, like self-harming behaviors. So yeah, they are super, depression, anxiety, addictions are like the way to escape from that environment or to survive to that environment. So what we have done is teach yoga classes weekly. We also, the maximum security in El Altiplano and in Veracruz, in another federal facility with men, we facilitate restorative circles weekly. It's a 9 months program, and we sit with them every week to start first to gain their confidence, because their trust is not granted. We need to introduce ourselves, why we are there, what we can share. Normally they are very grateful because no one visits them. Their family, sometimes women suffer much more family abandonment than men. So when we are there, they are very grateful that someone visits them. But when we start talking about violence, how do they learn it? Because no one borns violent. No one knows with a gun. No one borns wanting to harm some other. Violence is learned. But if violence can be learned, we can also unlearn violence. We can also learn other ways to interact with people. And that's what we offer them. Other ways to create their identity away from violence. They don't need to become violent to be a person, or to be respected, or to be a good father, or a good whatever. So we talk about that, and we have learned that many times violence is suffered first. Many of them were victims of violence in very young ages, and then they replicate it. They learn how to replicate it. With men, we have learned that violence is socially tolerated to be recreated outside. You can yell, you can fight, and that's very, and also in Mexico, that's very macho men, that's very brave and respected men. So they keep replicating that violence outside, even in prisons, mainly in prisons. But women will replicate that violence against themselves. We are socially and culturally educated to be silent, to do not yell, to do not express, to do not put limits, be always there pleasing, taking care of others. So what we have seen is that trauma in women will replicate inside, acting in rather than acting out. So self-harming is also very common in women's facility. This year we will also start a restorative circle with women with a different objective. With men, our main objective is that they take accountability or be accountable for the harm they have caused. And also looking for ways to repair. Like, yes, we can be very compassionate, and I have learned to see the person beyond the offense, but I will not avoid or quit the responsibility to take responsibility for their actions. This is the system doesn't do. The criminal system will always, even your private or public lawyer will tell you, no, say you were not there. You are innocent. They confuse you, and this is because they want you to move out. So no one in the criminal system will ask them to say honestly, deeply, like with real truth, to say what happened, why they did so. And also this is very important for victims. I also work with victims, not only in my human rights career, but also nowadays. And they are very interested to know to have information. What happened? Why to me? Why to my son? And these answers, or where he is. There are many disappeared people here in Mexico. We have also a crisis on disappearances. But they might be catched, they might be condemned for being involved on some of this, but they will not say where they are. And that's the main need of the families. What happened? where is my son? Where is my daughter? Where is my husband? Yeah, I know where the criminal or the responsible person was, but I don't know, like my personal needs are not fulfilled. And that the criminal system, traditional system, will not care about that. It's like you broke the law, there is a punishment, there is a responsible, that's it. In the restorative justice, we always ask who has been harmed, who has a responsibility to take or to do something to repair that harm. Not only the direct author, but the community. How the community can get also involved and help people to repair the damage. Or to, if maybe many times there is not like non-reversible damage, but we can do something to honor the memory of the person who had passed away or who was murdered, or we can do something. Even many times the guy said like, I will just quit the cartel. I'm not interested anymore to get this type of life. Many of them are also tired because it's very stressful to be inside. Like they don't sleep, they have a lot of physical illnesses, and it is not, they after some time in prison, because in prison they have a lot of time to think, and we want to use that time to make them or ask them how they can be responsible for the harm they have caused. And well, we also, beyond the yoga programs and restorative circles, we also train yoga teachers who wants to join us to teach inside how to be a trauma-informed yoga teacher. Because you might have heard this book, The Body Keeps the Score. It's from Bessel van der Kolk. And since early 2000, en el año 2000, no? Well, it was published some years ago, and he is very clear to say all the violence that we have lived in our lives will be storage in our body, somehow, somewhere, and the body will know better, or will know first, what our mind is trying to figure out. This is also very studied by Nazaret Castellanos, a Spanish neuroscientific, and she always says this: our body knows first, then our mind. I don't know if you have always burned your hand with some hot pan or hot span or something. You will first move your hands quickly, and little seconds later understood, oh, the oven was on. But our body reacts first, then our mind figure out what's going on. So if we are working with yoga, with the bodies of other people, we want that the teachers are aware how all the violence these guys or women have lived is storage in their body, and we don't want to recreate or activate that, those memories. We want them to feel safe again in their bodies. And this year we are, well, for that we also have published some manuals, yoga manuals for people in prison, so they can have their own practice. Because we can be there once per week, but they can, and in several prisons they are practicing. In Veracruz, for example, I know they are practicing 3 times per week, because they started just to guide other people inside. They have feel the benefits, and then they are willing to share these benefits with other people, as we all yoga teachers do, no? Like we have felt it first, and then we want to share it. And this year we are very excited because we want to also teach yoga teachers inside, like inmates, women and men, who became yoga teachers. Because we know that they will be guiding classes, they already are doing, but we want to give them some basic tools on how to not damage the neck, the knees, and also the nervous system. It's not all about articulations or skeletal or muscular system, but it's also about the nervous system, how not to activate the nervous system, or not to cause more damage than what they have already experienced. So well, and as I mentioned, this year we will also start yoga, restorative programs with women in the federal facility in Morelos. We have also evaluated our programs since the beginning, 2017. We asked people to evaluate our yoga programs, and since then we knew that, for example, 80% of the participants reported a reduction on irritability. 90% consider being less responsive towards provocations. 80% feel release of muscular tension. Well, numbers are really impressive for me, at least. And in the facility that is like the psychiatric unit for prisons at federal level, we didn't work with people with serious or chronic mental illness. We asked them to work with people who might be medicated but functional, that could interact, and they do participate. And that population reported that 40% claim that their need for medical attention had reduced. Yes, I don't know at what degree, but they took a lot of medication to get to sleep or for anxiety. So at least 40% of this population reported they didn't need that much or not at all. But in 2023, Yoga Alliance, as you may know, is a very important organization in the US, but with international dimension, that they also get us and support us to evaluate our programs, the 6 federal programs that we have. And they say that indeed our program of 6 months, 1 week per class, had reduced pain, had improved mental health. 92% reported to feel their energy level much better, less perceived stress. 88% reported to feel happier because of yoga. So yeah, we are I'm very convinced that yoga and a space to connect and to reflect on your own life and to invite them or to give them some other tools could help all these people, men and women, to move out from the violence patterns that they are so many times struck. So this is my hope, and with this I would like to finish.